everybody. Good afternoon. I am Joseph Lewis Tan. I am the Employee Journey Design Coach at DBS. Today I'll be sharing about how we use design thinking as a frame, as a process, to change the meeting culture at DBS. All right? Okay. So let me start off with this question. All right? Is it possible to turn the ship around? If you imagine the ship as your organization, and it's a big company like DBS of 26,000 employees, it's a big ship. And is it possible to to turn the ship around? And how do you shift the behaviors and mindsets and norms of the organization? What are the strategies and the execution and the outcomes for it? And does the change come from the top or the bottom? All right? So hopefully for this sharing today, hopefully you can take away one or two insights on how you can go back to your organization in terms of transforming the culture and transforming the employee experience. So a little about myself. I'm Joseph Lewis Tan. I'm a designer, educator, and an entrepreneur. My design background is I graduated with a degree and diploma in industrial design, designing furnitures and products and retail for some brands that you've seen there. I also was previously teaching at a few of our design schools here in Singapore. And part of it is, as an entrepreneur, is I help co-found a design center at the school looking at creating social impact and how can we help our students take the learning outside of the classroom. So that's a little about me. And then currently now, I'm an employee journey design coach at DBS. And itself is a very interesting new title. And the key thing is that we are not part of HR and we are not HR. And what I kind of do on a day-to-day basis is to help senior leaders and leaders in the bank to kind of clarify their thinking and also align with their business objective and outcomes that they want to what the expectations and the needs and the issues faced by the employee from the bottom, and kind of make a win-win situation at the end of the day so that we can deliver a joyful employee experience for our 26,000 staff. So a little about the team that I'm working in. For us, we're just a small little part in the bank-wide effort in terms of transformation and digital transformation. So for us, my team is called People Tech, where we look at the future of work. Above us, we are working along this big mother group called DBS Transformation Group. And inside the Transformation Group, there are the innovation team, there's the experience team, there is the agile team, and also the platform team. So they are all in the data first team, looking at different parts of digital transformation across the bank. So for us, we are very much focused on employee experience, where we look at the space of the employee, where and how does employee work, and how are we preparing them for the future of work. We look at the technology, the issues that they face with tech, how can we upgrade, how can we equip them with tech, and we also look at the culture aspect. How do we then change the mindset, change the processes and the policies at DBS to make the employee experience better. So I'm sure most of us will know what DBS is. So DBS is one of the largest banks in Singapore and also in the Southeast in the Asia region. We are very fortunate that last year in 2008, we received 2 Global Bank, Best Bank in the World awards from Global Finance and The Banker. So that's a lot of good work that's done across all staff from the bank. And that's something that we are proud of. To kind of get started in terms of starting and change management or re-looking at any change management programs or creating a change in the behaviors of people and organization, we always need to start from the top. And what is the strategic priority for the bank? And for us in DBS, we have our Live More Bankless kind of motto. But also in terms of the strategy from there, one of it is about how can we create a startup culture in the bank. And the key thing is that in like many industries across the world, especially for banking now, we are being disrupted constantly from the tech companies, the fintech companies, and they're slowly taking away what the bank, a traditional bank, can do. So in order to change the thinking and change the processes and the products and the service that we are offering, not only to our customers and our employees, we need to change the way that we work as well. So that's something that is critical for us. So diving deeper into how we might want to do that, I think back in 2017, our senior leaders in the bank had an offsite meeting and conference to kind of decide how might we want to achieve, what are some of the issues that's encountered by our staff. And one of the topics that were brought up was this whole thing about meeting, where it's not foreign to any other organization, is that in other organizations as well, you will have issues faced with meetings. And for us, it's something that is critical as well. Like, meetings are not efficient, they don't have an agenda, people don't start on time, there's no equal share of voice, people are not speaking up, and etc. And they don't end with a summary, etc. Yeah. So for that, how can we then start to look at it differently? At the same time as well, from the bottom up, we have also looked at the surveys and the voices and the verbal tints from our employees, that they also are facing similar issues in meetings across the bank as well. So in terms of the startup culture, we have the 5 principles on our culture radar, which is agile, being a learning organization, customer obsession, data-driven, and experiment and take risks. So meeting is under part of our learning organization. How can we enable a learning culture? So in order to change the behaviors, in order to change this mindset, in order to create this employee experience, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, we can look at the behaviors and the practices look at the practices and behaviors of our employees on a day-to-day basis. But the key thing is that how can we look at the perception, the attitude, the values, the deeper down, the softer part, softer skills, softer part inside the heart, to kind of change the mindset. And that's something through design thinking, we can offer some insights into it. So how we do it is through, how we define it is through understanding the employee's journey. And the employee's journey is this sum of all the interactions, decisions, and the emotions that the employee face in terms of getting the job done. And how we define getting the job done is what's the functional needs of the employee, what is the emotional needs of the employee, what's the social needs of the employee. And that's something that we did. And then through the design thinking process, we have kind of identified 3 areas that we want to focus on. So when we first started out in 2017, when we got the go-ahead, a task force was created to kind of go about and changing this meeting culture in DBS. And I think within the first few months at the end of 2017, there was a shift in the culture. But in 2018, we decided to go deeper and really tackle the deeper issues about collaboration, about decisiveness, about productivity. How can we help our employees make better informed decisions faster? How can we help everyone to feel that they're safe and they're encouraged to speak up? How can we help our employees to waste less time waiting for the meeting to start or to end? And these are big tasks in terms of looking at the employee experience for meetings. So after many different experiments, I'll share with you some later, we kind of narrowed down to this 3, which was aligned with our CEO, Piyush, and the senior leaders in the bank, where we have this thing about Meeting Mojo, which is our new ritual, Speedy Meetings, and a Mojo app. So to share a little bit about Meeting Mojo is our way of how we run meetings in DBS. So in every meeting room in DBS, you will find this sticker in the meeting room. And basically what Meeting Mojo is Mo stands for meeting owner, which is the person who runs the meeting or who organizes or calls for the meeting. And he or she will be required to make sure that the meeting is run with dates, making sure that every meeting has data, making sure that every meeting has agenda, that is with time box, making sure that the meetings start and end on time, and they run speedy meeting, making sure that everyone has a chance to speak up, and to summarize at the end of the meeting so that everyone is clear about the action point to take back after the meeting. And there's another role, which is Joe. Joe is the joyful observer. He or she is the one who helps to keep track of time, because sometimes along the meeting, you get lost and you lose track of time. So this is a key person to keep track of it. More importantly, Joe, at the end of the meeting, will give feedback. So about 5 to 3 minutes will be time given to Joe to give feedback about how Mo ran the meeting. So we kind of create this a bit of a feedback culture in DBS, and so that we can slowly improve meeting by meeting, improve the way that we meet with each other. Another initiative that we pushed out last year was Speedy Meeting. So this whole idea about Speedy Meetings is actually not new. Google has done this before. So if you go to your Google Calendar and you go to settings, you can see there's Run Speedy Meetings. Basically, the whole idea is that you want to change your 30 minutes meeting to 25, ending it 5 minutes early, changing your 60 minutes meeting to a 50-minute meeting, ending 10 minutes early. So this whole idea of creating a bit of space at the end of the meeting to create some sort of buffer. So if you have a back-to-back meeting, at least you have some time to travel to the next meeting or to take a go to the toilet or something. So for us, we tried it with about 3 different groups and teams across the bank, and then through the 6-week experiment, where we asked a baseline survey, a midline, and the end line to kind of encourage them to run this initiative. We have noticed that we are glad to hear that 85% of them said yes to Speedy Meetings. And then from there, with the data, we noticed that there was an increase in decisiveness, increase in timeliness, and also increase in collaboration. So that's one of the initiatives that we pushed out last year. The last one is that in order to help Joe, the person who keeps time in the meeting, one issue that we notice is that if you are the person who is assigned by your boss and you have a VP or your SVP or your ED or your MD in a meeting, what we call the hippo, the highest paid person in the room, normally you wouldn't want to shout out and tell that, boss, you're talking a bit too much and you are getting late already. So how can we help this employee, who is Joe, to kind of defer that responsibility or that nervousness, that anxiousness, away to an app or to some sort of audio prompt? So basically, how this differs from a timer from your phone is that it's preset Speedy Meetings, 25 minutes meeting sessions or 50 minutes meeting sessions. And once you count down, there are 3 countdowns. At the 10 minutes before the meeting ends, there will be an audio prompt to let you know there's 10 minutes left. Once there's 5 minutes left, there will be 2 prompts. When the meeting ends, 3 prompts. And if you go over 5 minutes, another prompt. So at least this slide audio prompts will help to guide people that, my meeting is ending soon, I better wrap up, instead of saying it out loud. So this app is currently free for download for everyone. We designed it just for our employees, but everyone else is free to use it. Yeah. So what we noticed is when we started this, officially rolling out this campaign in May in last year, and over till October last year, when we did a baseline and end-line survey throughout the whole bank, 26,000 staff, what we got back was that really, through this initiative and many others, that we have improved our timeliness, whether time to save from employees waiting for the meeting to start and to end has saved up to the sum of a few 100,000 hours, which you equate to money is quite a big sum of money. In terms of decisiveness, we also noticed the increased push for data and data use in the meetings, and there was more time box agenda. And lastly, we also noticed there was a more equal share of voice. People are speaking up in meetings, and everyone has a chance to speak up. So here are some of the verbal hints about what employees say about our meeting in general. I mean, we have a few hundred. I mean, this is just a few across the region. So when we roll out this, it's not just in Singapore, but it's all in 6 markets, across all our markets. So just to share a bit the process and the journey about how we went about doing this. All right, so I teach design thinking, and I mean, there's design thinking methodology from IDEO, from Stanford. DBS, we also have our own, which is called journey thinking, or 4Ds, the 4Ds process. So it's all the same. It's just a problem-solving process. And step by step, I just want to break down in some of the key things that we did along the way. So on the journey, the discover side, what we get insights from is, we got insights from bank-wide surveys. So we have our employee engagement surveys that we go around, and we got insights from there. But also, we also run our own survey in terms of the meeting context. And we also do interviews with our senior leaders and our employees. Then after that, we understand what are the jobs to be done, what are the needs, the functional needs, the social needs, the emotional needs of our employees. Then we identify the journey statements. We map out who are the key stakeholders we can partner with to kind of push this change forward. From there, then, we define what we want to do. We do experiments, we craft out hypotheses, we craft out assumptions, we test them, we get the metrics to kind of test it. and then we brainstorm beans, what we call behavior enablers, and nudges to kind of experiment. And then eventually the key thing is about pitching this initiative to the senior leadership to kind of get their alignment and support and endorsement to push it forward throughout the whole bank. Later then we develop, test out these assumptions and hypotheses across the bank. We run the experiments and then we align with our stakeholders. Then lastly, we deliver this initiative across the bank through designing different artifacts, from the stickers to the meeting boxes to different EDMs and designs. Then we also do guerrilla marketing and making sure that there's both online and offline engagement. So here's a overview of the different things that we do. So I think for most or quite a few different change management program that's across, what is normally done is just an EDM. You send an email out about this change happening. But we noticed that actually, in order to get change, real effective change going, you need to tackle, address the management, address the masses, making sure there's offline and online engagement as well. So we do anything from meetings to office visits to putting different banners and posters around, to giving videos, to being a part of our staff briefing, a bank-wide staff briefing, to engaging our country heads, to have an open dialogue with VPs and AVPs, about 4,000 to 5,000 of them, in a frank conversation of a Q&A session. So these are different type of initiatives that we run last year. So some of the pictures, these are some pictures when we had our mascot, Sing and Tan, to dress up as meeting heroes. And we visited 3 different offices in the bank. So part of my job as well is to, one, design the outfits, but also to design the jingles and the stuff, and taking photos and everything. So it's quite fun. And we also engaged our regions. Our regions also brought along and took our artifacts, also redid it in our own language, and also pushed it across the regions. Here are some of the artifacts that we did, from banners to stickers to boxes to posters and stuff. And these are the EDMs as well. So we tried to be a bit uncorporate and did it a bit more fun with videos and infographic style. So just want to share some of the learnings that we did. So those are just 3 experiments that we kind of scale up. Along the way, we have experiment, failed, and learn, and repeat this and hope. And here are some of our learnings. One is that the first one is to, in any change, what we notice is we have to keep it short and simple. So when we first started out, the Mojo script was just a passage of text, which is good, but then over time we felt that there was a lot of a lot of employees do not understand the message. So we try to simplify it, and it picked up much better. One thing, the second part is that we have this thing that we experimented out called phone Jenga. So what we notice is in meeting rooms, there's a lot of people who are playing with their phones and they get distracted by their phones. So Joe or anybody can call for a phone Jenga where everybody has to put their phone in the middle of the table so that you don't get distracted of it. So when we first started out the initiative, a lot of people got excited about it. It was kind of a very fun thing, even the senior leaders. But over time, we noticed that such behaviors is very difficult to break, so people start going back to the old behaviors. So that's something that we need to think about, how can we consistently sustain this behavior change. And lastly, we try to be a bit creative with our different artifacts. So we got this idea from one of the European countries' government, where they noticed that their civil servants, their public servants were getting late for meeting. So what they designed is a door hanger that says on one side, if you're late, get out, don't come in. And the other side, if you're early, come in. So we tried something like that in DBS. We thought it was simple. We didn't put any comms. We just planted out in the field of the meeting rooms. And what we noticed over a few days is that people didn't know that it was crushed, it was on the floor. We got very upset, we got very heartbroken. But I think what we noticed and what we learned is that even for something very simple and something creative, we still need to push it out, explain it, the reason, the why we're doing it. Yeah, so that's something very important. And I think on the last part I want to touch on is that in order for effective change to happen, it needs to happen on a few different levels. One is the top, the team and the tribes, the people that you work with. So for the top, every of our initiative that we do, We got strong support from the senior leaders, from our CEOs to our GMC members across the bank. In terms of role modeling that. So even Piyush, our CEO, always in every meeting, he will request who's the Joe, who's the Mo, who's the Joe, who's the Mo. Kind of keep track. On a weekly basis as well, my bigger boss is Paul Coburn, who is the Chief Data Transformation Officer in the bank. And we have a weekly or bi-weekly showcase with him to kind of align and get his steer on whether the initiative, the experiment that we're doing are right on track. Also, a key thing is that I have to say a lot of thank you and gratitude, show gratitude and appreciation for our team. When we first started out, it was just two of us, Constant and Jenny, and then myself, who I joined in third. Along the way, we have really brought in different people and really created a really cross-functional team. So Constance, she came from crop comms, and Jenny, she has been in the bank for about 30 years. Then for me, I'm from a mix of different background. We have Adrian, who's our business analyst and UX guy. We have our graphic designer. And recently also we brought in a PhD, a behavior scientist, to kind of give us a bit more rigor in the experiments that we are doing. So this team, essentially what we kind of push out this thing. So we kind of act like a startup as well, which is something interesting. And last one is that in order for change to happen, you really need to engage your champions. So these are, across the regions, or across other 5 markets, we have our little Mojo squad. So we have any new initiative that we're pushing out, we engage them, we share with them, we get their feedback, and then we help them, encourage them to help us push it out, along with the past people that we have worked with. We also need to engage the COOs, so the people who are operating the engines of the different markets across the region. So we work with them as well. And also we work with our bank-wide employees. Nothing will happen without them as well, their feedback especially. So in summary, in order to make change happen, you really need to dig deep. Just go beyond the surface, and other than looking at the behaviors and practices, you need to understand the mindset. And one way to do that is through the 4D process, or the design thinking process, where you really go and discover and engage with your users, your employees, your customers. You experiment, you fail, you learn, you repeat, making sure that when you deliver it out, not just do it online and for the masses, but making sure that you involve the management and also offline, and that you involve the senior leaders, the leadership, the team that you set up with, and also the tribes, the people you can work with to make this happen. So I would like to end on whether is it possible to turn the ship around. So if you see the organization as DBS with 26,000 big is DBS, change is going to take slow. I mean, you turn the ship, it's going to take slow. Compared to those startups, which is like on a speedboat, they can move much faster. But change is possible, and it involves shifting behaviors, mindsets, and norms. It involves having a strategy, the execution, the team around it, and it involves change coming from the top and as well as the bottom. I'd like to end on this slide, a quote from Peter Drucker, that cultures eat strategy for breakfast. And it really rings true, because culture is really about the people and the day-to-day work and the interactions and the workplace practices, the experience that your employees go through on a day-to-day basis to help the business achieve the business outcomes. If you don't take care of your employees, then your business outcomes will be affected. So something to think about. All right, hope that you guys learned something today from our experience. For us, we're still growing, we're still learning, and we're still experimenting. I'm not sure if I have time for Q&A. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer one or two. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Joseph, for a little bit of insight. Okay, so are we trying to establish the fact that we should not rush into changing or shifting the culture change that you spoke about? The sort of organization or a group of company that I work for, they're trying to change things rapidly, and fast pace is something which is there, and the top agenda of the board, the management, and of course the people. So I find it, as an HR person, the HR representative of the company, I find it challenging at times, not all the time, but at times I feel that we need to slow down a little. Why? Because it's about people. You cannot push people to a limit where they break down. So is it good to say that we need to go steady in terms of shifting the culture?
Thank you. So the question is about whether for culture change, do it fast or do it slow. So for me, as a designer, as someone who's very passionate and very romantic about design, I really like to take things slow. All right, I'm a romantic. But reality-wise, with the push from management, I think it really depends on the direction and the objective and the strategy and the thinking and the intention from the senior management. If they really want things faster, I mean, end of the day, is what we are doing is helping the company. So we just need to help and align with the pace of the change. But on the same side as well, it's our responsibility to make sure that, yes, the business wants all the change and the stuff, but for us, we need to align and showcase and surface to them the concerns and the wants and the desires from the employees from the bottom up, through surveys, through interviews, to kind of get them in line because they are not aware of the day-to-day operation. So for that, we try to bring it up. Fast or slow, for us, some of the experiments, we did it fast, like a few weeks to actually a few days. Some of them take it slow to a month to 2 months. There's no definite answer to that. I think for us, the key thing is just keep doing. And then from there, we learn from it, and then we keep doing. So even now, we're still doing. This is just one small part of what we are doing. Yeah. Thank you.